everybody. First of all, thank you to everybody for joining us today. If you're not a member of Beth Tikva, if you haven't been to one of our little cooking programs, I'm Ellie. I am the Youth and Young Family Coordinator at Beth Tikva. I was supposed to be co-hosting this with Carmela, our Rebbitzin. She is feeling a little under the weather today. I feel like because it's COVID times, I have to tell you, it's not COVID. She's fine. She's just feeling under the weather. So I hope I don't have a mad dash to the door for most people who are here to see Carmela. I will do my best to carry this myself. I have 27 odd years of Hamentashen making experience, so hopefully this will still run smoothly. Everyone is so kind and muted. I've often said that if you have a question, put it in the chat. I have learned that I don't read the chat, so unmute yourself, yell at me. Often I'm told to slow down. This is me speaking slowly, so I will work on it. I have sent everybody the recipe in your email, but if you did not receive that from registration, it is in the group chat. So we are going to get started. How many people do we have? We've almost got 60 people here. That's awesome. And raise your hand if you're cooking with me. I know the Grovers are. I've got the mini Grovers with me. Yeah, hey guys. Awesome, yay, hi Karen. Okay, awesome. All right, I'm gonna stop scrolling through. There's a lot to scroll through. So let's get started. We are going to make a traditional Hamentashen dough. We are using a mix master. You can use a hand mixer, or you can just like put in some good elbow grease and use your arm. We're going to start by making the dough. It is a dough that needs to chill. We're going to cheat. We're going to stick it in the freezer. We are going to make a traditional prune filling, and of course, it's the Noreen Gillett's recipe, because if you're making Hamentashen, if you're using a Cuisinart, we are using Noreen Gillett's recipes. So we're going to start. I want everybody who's cooking with me to make sure they have their ingredients for the dough ready. I'm just going to let a few more people in. Gail's got it. So we have our butter, if you are okay with dairy. If we are not doing dairy, you have margarine or a vegetable shortening, and you want it at room temperature to make it easy to mix. We have white sugar. We have all-purpose flour. We have kosher salt. I know the recipe said salt. If you want to do table salt, that's fine. I find for baking, kosher salt is a little bit better. We've got 3 eggs, and we've got honey and baking powder. Okay, I'm gonna let one more person into the room. Fantastic. Okay, so we are going to start by creaming together our butter and sugar. So I've got 2/3 of a cup of butter. I'm gonna stick that in to my mixer. And again, if you guys didn't bring your butter up to room temperature, my little tip was don't microwave it. Dice it up, put it in a bowl with a lid on it, and within like 5 minutes, you've got room temperature butter. And in a worst case scenario, like your food processor will do the work. It is heating it up. It just might take you guys a little bit longer to get the consistency that we want. So that's 2/3 of a cup of butter or fat of your choice. I personally don't like baking with margarine, so if I'm going the Parg route, I would do Crisco. And we've got a cup of sugar. I had to buy all new measuring cups because my son has a little mini kitchen and he's taken all of my things and I don't know where they are. So I had to unclip all those. So I'm doing a cup of sugar. And we're going to use the paddle attachment, or again, if you don't have your mix master with you, whatever you have is fine. And I'm going to whip this until it's light and airy. So a lot of people will stop as soon as everything's combined. That's not good enough. You want your butter or margarine to be really light in color, really fluffy. This is going to help you not have like a really crispy, dense, icky cookie. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Rochelle, you made your dough, but you did not cream my sugar with the butter. Will it be okay? Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll have a slightly different consistency. Maybe you have a crunchier cookie than I do. But if it all came together and it looks like a dough, you're great. There you go. I'm going to let it go for another minute. In the meantime, I'm going to crack 3 eggs. We're going to be adding those individually. I made my dough and it's rather sticky. Should I add a bit more flour? Let's wait until we roll it out to add the flour. If anyone made it in advance and it's sticky, because when we roll it out on our tabletops, we're going to use flour to help. And so we don't add too much extra flour. So I like that everybody was ahead of the game here. Alrighty, I'm going to crack 3 eggs. I'm going to let this keep whipping. So sorry for the noise. Okay. So this is what my butter looks like. It's nice and airy. It's nice and light. And I've got 3 eggs I'm going to add individually. If you did what I did, which is not a kind of a sure way to crack an egg, and you cracked all your eggs together and then you realize you got in a shell, my fun tip of the day is the shells act like magnets to one another. So you use your whole, like your half shell to scoop up your little shelly bits. And then you don't need to dump everything or stick your fingers in. So I'm going to add my eggs one at a time with the mixer running. I'm not going to add my next one until everything's combined. If your butter is sticking to the sides, just use your spatula to bring everything down because we want everything to be nice and incorporated.
I just want to say hi to everybody. Hi, Ellie.
Oh, hi.
Rabbi Grover.
Wait, Rabbi Grover, where are you?
I'm doing okay. It's good to see everybody. Carmela sends her regrets that she couldn't be here with you tonight. So she sent me as her emissary. I have a little bit of a message about Hamentashen. Let me know when you have 2 seconds. I don't want to interrupt the cooking and the baking.
Please, there's nothing to do now. But I do want to say that Arlene just mentioned that this is her recipe that she brought to Beth Tikva. So I'm so glad. I didn't know it was Arlene's. I just know that it was given to me for Beth Tikva. So I'm very happy that you are taking credit for it. You can chime in at any time if I do things wrong. Okay, go ahead, Rabbi.
I just wanted to say very few people understand what Hamentashen have to do with Purim. So I'm sorry I missed the introduction, but did we talk at all about what Hamentashen have to do with Purim?
No, dude.
If you ask most people what Hamentashen have to do with Purim, they'll say, what do you guys think?
Haman.
Haman what?
Haman's ears.
Haman's ears is a big one, right? Because in Hebrew, the Hamentashen are called Oznei Haman. Or what Jonah just said behind me is that it has to do with Haman's hat. Tashen, for those who speak Yiddish, mean pockets. It's a totally different translation than in the Hebrew. Haman's Tashen means Haman's pockets. And what do the pockets have to do with the story of Purim? When Haman gets it in his mind, because he's so angered by Mordechai that the Jewish people need to be exterminated, he goes to King Achashverosh and says, there's a certain people, they're different than everybody else, they're scattered, they're a problem. I'll give you 10,000, I think it is, talents of silver if you get rid of them. And immediately Achashverosh grants Haman permission, gives him his ring and grants him permission to carry out the order. So why is it that Achashverosh didn't ask more questions? Like Haman doesn't even say it's the Jewish people. He just says there's a certain people. You'd think that a king, I mean, even a dumb king would say, right? Who are these people? What are their different customs? Why are they so bad? Why do they all deserve to get exterminated? But when a person sees 10,000 talents of silver, which most people say those days, that was an enormous sum of money, you don't ask questions. You just say, what? How much money? Okay, do whatever you want. So actually, the Hamentashen have a lot to do with the story of Purim. They're a warning about how the pockets can mix with politics. Money can mix with politics, and very dangerous things can ensue. And that's a lesson that's not only relevant to ancient Persia, but something that we think about in modern countries like Canada as well. How dangerous it can be when money influences politicians and their opinions. It carries their conscience to places that you wouldn't even imagine. But, you know, this is what lobbyists do sometimes. They make donations to the right causes, and it influences the way they vote. It influences the way they decide things. So we take these Hamentashen to remind us, look what Haman was able to do with his pockets, change a king's opinion about an entire people and lead to their extermination. So maybe it's fitting that we eat it so that it should all disappear by the end of Purim. So I thought I'd explain that to people, because I think very few people understand that actually they're a very core symbol to Purim and its lessons.
I was just going to say the ear thing. So, thank you so much.
I know, but now I've given you the deeper meaning.
It's
Okay,
very-
thank you for letting me interrupt.
Thank you so much for doing so. All right, gang.
Good to see you all. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Okay. All right. We've got Hamentashen and a lesson. Fantastic. All right, guys. So I have finished mixing up my eggs, butter, and sugar. I'm just going to add a little bit of flavor here in the form of honey. Normally I would add vanilla here, I was saying, but 2 tablespoons of honey is what Arlene says to do, and I do what Arlene says. So I've got 2 tablespoons of honey, and I'm just going to mix that in until it's incorporated. And I'm going to put it aside. Now I am doing the dry ingredients. So we are sifting our flour and other dry ingredients. Like, you don't have to, but it makes everything nicer. I'm trying to get us a nice soft cookie here. So I'm doing 3 cups of flour. Did I rustle too much? 3 cups of flour, everybody. I'm going to sift as I go. How are my fellow bakers doing? Am I speaking slowly enough? No complaints. Okay. All right. That's 3. And now I am going to add in 1 teaspoon of baking powder. How many does this recipe make? Depends on the size of your Hamentashen. I was estimating about 4 dozen. Arlene, please let us know. Okay. So I'm doing 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And then just 1/8 of a teaspoon of kosher salt. So very little. Excuse me for interrupting, but I've used the butter flavored Crisco, which is parve. That is an excellent parve option over the margarine. My very lactose intolerant family makes fun of me because whenever I bring dessert, they're like, oh, Ellie brought something with butter in it. So I'm just a very big fan of butter. But the butter flavored Crisco is perfect. So I've got 1/8 of a teaspoon of my kosher salt. I'm going to give everything just a quick little mix before it goes into our wet ingredients. So we are going to fold our dry ingredients in. So I'm going to put my flour, baking powder, and salt right in. And then using a spatula, you literally fold. So you take it from underneath and you fold it through. Fold it over. And this way we're not overworking the gluten in our flour. We're keeping our nice soft cookie. And I do this until everything is just combined. This takes a little bit of patience. Say, Arlene, when you would do this for the shul, how many batches would you make? How many Hamentashen are we talking about here?
I would make about four or 5 batches more. Maybe 6 batches.
And how many Hamentashen?
Oh, I had well over 100. But I used to sit and give the kids each a ball, and they would be able to make like a couple of Hamentashen each. And to save some, instead of rolling out the dough, what we would do is I told them just take a ball, a small ball, and roll it in your hand to make it smooth, and then flatten it, make flat, and then put the filling in the middle and make the 3 corners.
I've already gotten emails from people saying that that's the most brilliant thing they've ever seen. Instead of rolling out the dough.
You like the ball method? Yeah, just give them a ball, and it's easier for kids than rolling it out.
It's so smart. But I have to say, when I was little, one of my favorite part of making the Hamentashen was cutting out the circles.
Oh yeah,
So,
you liked rolling out the dough.
I like to touch.
Yeah,
Okay,
all kids
so-
love to touch it. It's like touching, I don't know, clay or whatever. They like the feel of it.
Yeah, anything smushy. So Arlene beat me
But
to
it does have to rest. It does have to rest.
Yes, so that's exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to put it in the freezer just to make the process a little bit quicker. But basically, everybody, we are just going to make a piece of the dough in our plastic wrap. I'm going to divide it into 2, just
That's
to
right.
make it quicker.
Exactly.
I like having you like coaching me, Arlene. This is great.
My dough is much wetter than yours.
It's much wetter.
I mean, looser, It doesn't, should I add more flour?
Do you have, where are you? I'd like to see your dough.
Marilyn here.
Who's talking, right?
Marilyn here.
Marilyn, I would add a scooch more flour. Yeah, just to make it all a bit easier on you.
Okay.
Like I would start with a 1/4 cup of flour though. Don't dump a whole cup in. Ease your way into it.
Do I have to sift it first?
You don't have to
Do
sift
you
it.
have to, what should I? No, pardon me?
Were you
No.
asking about sifting?
Yes, do I have to sift it first before I add
You
it?
don't have to. It makes for a lighter cookie.
Okay. I can't, not right.
That's getting fancy on you. Okay, so I have got my discs of dough that I didn't actually wrap. So they're looking everywhere. I'm gonna stick them in the freezer. This just makes it all easier to roll out after. And as Eileen said, it gives the dough a chance to rest. Okay. How are all my bakers doing? I don't hear complaints, so I think I'm going to take that as everyone's doing amazing. So we are going to make our filling now. And I actually got requests for prune, which I find to be wild because that was always my least favorite, but I'm happy to do it because it makes me think of my mama, who if anybody was with us for the prepping for Shabbat class, I love cooking with my mommy. So this is all going into your food processor. If you don't have a food processor, my little tip is you can reconstitute the prunes in hot water. And so you can boil them and get them nice and soft, and then they'll be easier to just chop by hand or use an immersion blender. I'm going to assume that everybody has a Cuisinart. And I'm going to do a half recipe of the prune filling because I also have Hershey Kisses and jam because some people were asking me if those are options as well. So those are all doable. Someone also asked me about Nutella. I told you that I bought it specifically for this. I had a bad day yesterday and ate the whole jar. So we're not doing that anymore. I have a 19-month-old who's bored. So we are going to start by pureeing an orange. I'm doing half an orange, a seedless orange. But if you're doing the full recipe, go right ahead, put the whole thing in there. I'm going to cut into wedges though to make it a little bit easier on my blade. And so when I say the whole thing, I'm talking skin, pulp, rind, everything. I use my hand to knead the dough a lot. Yes, you got a good workout, Rochelle. Okay. So I'm going to start by putting my orange in, and we want to puree it until it's completely broken down. If you don't have your food processor and you're doing my boiling prune method, you're just going to juice the orange. Still delicious. Okay. The orange, so you're just doing a whole orange, you cut it up into pieces, you stick it into your food processor, and you break it completely down. If you don't have a food processor, you're just going to juice it. So actually, I have a few too many chunks of peel, which will be a bit bitter if we bite into it. So I'm just going to smush it all together, give it one more go.
Ellie, if you're allergic to citrus, can you just leave that out?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can definitely leave out the citrus. No problem. As delicious as it is, it's not worth the reaction. Okay, so now we are adding 12 ounces, so about 2 cups of pitted prunes. Okay. And we are adding raisins as well. So 1.5 cups of raisins. Again, if anybody is watching me, I have half the recipe. So I'm doing 3/4 cup of raisins. this point, you can also add a quarter to a half cup of walnuts. It adds another little level of flavor. I'm not a fan of walnuts. I don't have any in my house, so I'm sticking to just fruit. And finally, we are adding 2 tablespoons of sugar, or Splenda, or the sweetener of your choice. Is everybody good with this? Okay. I'm going to puree everything together. Oh, it's shattered a ball. You okay? My dog just tripped over the baby gate. Okay. So this is the consistency of my filling. It still has, again, it's not going to completely puree. We didn't add any liquid to it, but it's nice and sticky. It holds together. That's what we want. And again, if you want to do something different, I've done jam, Nutella, Hershey Kisses, chocolate chips, whatever you like. You can't really go wrong here. I'm going to transfer all this into a bowl that does not have a blade in it. And
My daughter yesterday said that she makes, my daughter yesterday told me she makes it with caramel bars.
ooh, that can't be bad.
Cuts up a caramel, a little piece of caramel in each one, and they melt.
Does anybody else have any like little family secrets for Hamentashen or fillings that you guys like to do that we wouldn't have thought of? I love that idea.
Cherry pie filling is delicious.
We have a,
We made some more. So we put marshmallows and chocolate chips.
Oh my
Like
god,
peanut butter and chocolate chips.
I feel ridiculous with prunes right now. This feels too healthy.
Dulce lucky
Placebo.
or whatever. I don't know how you say it. It's like a caramel. It's like a cream caramel. You know, comes in a jar.
Dolce de leche.
That's it.
Mm,
It's really yummy.
if you ever want to make that yourself, all you have to do is like boil a can of condensed milk, and it's so good.
Oh, really? I must
Okay.
try then.
Apparently, it's dangerous because it could like explode.
It's too
But
good.
If it
It's
doesn't
too
explode, it's
good.
delicious. It's so delicious. That one's worth the risk more than the orange. Okay. So everybody got their filling
Toblerone
needs.
chocolate.
Oh, who said that? You guys, you're making me very hungry for treats now. Amazing. That sounds so good. Okay. I'm going to just, my work surface has completely been cluttered. So I'm just going to make a little bit of room. I'm going to do Hamentashen 2 ways. I'm going to do the Arlene method. We are using cookie butter, someone says. That sounds good. Okay. I'm going to stick to prunes and some Hershey Kisses. But yeah, so I'm going to do my method of rolling out the dough, and I'm also going to do the Arlene method of smushing, because that one also looks a lot of fun, and I think that's what the Grovers do. So let me grab one of my dough. I did not leave this long enough. I'm fully aware of that. But we're moving quite quickly here. Okay, so I'm going to flour my surface here. If anyone gets inspired with another filling, please feel free to keep yelling them out. Okay.
I'm going to be doing raspberry cheesecake later.
That sounds so good. Amazing. You guys are very creative. Okay. So I'm going to do the Arlene method first. So I'm going to take just a ball of dough. Make a nice circle. Do you put egg wash on the Hamentashen before it's baked? I often do. With this recipe, I do another recipe that's also Noreen Gillett's with orange in it. That one I always do an egg wash. For this one I don't, but it never hurts to put an egg wash on a cookie. It always looks pretty. Actually, I don't put egg wash on knishes either, and then someone recommended it a few weeks back, and it's a game changer. It looks delicious now. So I have smushed my cookie dough. And I'm just going to take like a teaspoon's worth of filling.
Don't make the dough too thin. I hope you didn't smush it down too thin.
It's like,
Yeah, just right. Perfect.
I don't know, like a quarter of an inch.
Yeah,
That's right.
perfect.
All right.
Perfect.
I feel validated. Thank you. All right. So for anyone who hasn't made Hamentashen, which apparently we have a few, so that's exciting. We're going to make the triangle shape that Rabbi Grover was talking about. So you start by pinching two sides together. And then all you need to do is bring the bottom back up. And make sure it's all pinched and nicely sealed because filling can ooze out. And there you go. It's very easy. So I'd love to see, how are the Posners doing there? So you guys said you've done this once before. I'm putting you guys on the spot. I'm gonna do one more like this.
Yeah, Leah wants to show you.
And yes, I just tore.
Leah, here.
Please.
Leah, show her a little bit.
Oh, she can see it.
Wait, I'm gonna share my spotlight with you guys.
Look the bigger land, so she's gonna show her.
It might be too high.
That's beautiful.
It's a little bit pointy on the ends.
Is that the cherry pie filling?
Yes.
Cherry pie filling.
Yeah. Looks good, eh?
All right, do you want to do one with me? Let's teach everybody together.
Let's do it together.
Okay, I'm gonna take this one. You're
Got
gonna
it.
show her.
All right, let's do it together, guys.
Grab a ball, Leah. Make a ball.
What shall I add if it's crumbling?
Okay.
I'm not talking to you. What shall I add if
It's
it's crumbling?
Show her.
Who's asking? I'd love to see what you're making. Is that Rochelle?
It's crumbling. What should I add?
Oh, that's such a good question. I would put it back in the mix master, and you could whip up an egg and sort of slowly add until you get the consistency you want. Another option is to knead it and hope that sort of the heat from your hand can sort of
Show her the size of the
push
ball.
everything
Be
back
sure.
together.
Show her the size of the ball.
I have a question. Is this the proper size of the ball?
There's no proper size. It's however you want it to be, but that looks very similar to what I did.
Similar. See? There you go.
So let's see. That's how much filling I put in. I've got a nice edge. The recording after. Oh, the recording of this video will be on the Beth Tikva website. I'm going to sneeze in. It'll be on the Beth Tikva YouTube page hopefully tomorrow.
Ellie, do you tear off a piece
Okay.
to make the ball?
Yeah, I just tore off a piece. I'm going rustic. I'll show you my my more perfectionist version after.
Can you
Okay,
freeze
so-
these, or how long would they last?
I think a good cookie will
Ellie?
last in a Tupperware for about a week, but in the freezer, I would give it a few months before it succumbs to freezer taste. And the dough, Arlene, you can correct me, but I think you could put the dough in the freezer and then you can bring it to room temperature in order to make the dough in advance.
Correct. I
Right.
used to make it a couple of weeks in advance and have it in the freezer there at the shul. And then I would take it out the morning that we were going to use it, and takes a couple of hours to thaw it out.
Right. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to do one more like this.
That ball idea, Ellie, is the best. Instead of rolling.
Oh, this is Arlene, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So much easier.
It's so easy. And the dough is nice. It's not too sticky. So like, I'm not making a mess doing this.
Yeah.
That one I put way. So here's a good lesson for what not to do. I put too much filling and it's already starting to make a mess. So I'm going to show you guys
It's
the
a
labor
lovely
intensive
dough.
way to do this. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to do the
It's a
labor intensive
lovely
way
dough.
just because it's a great dough. It's like foolproof. So
If you have too much filling,
This
can
is-
you, like the honey nut one, are you able to put that in the fridge for later? Like preserve it?
oh, absolutely. You can even freeze it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Or you can use the filling added into your oatmeal in the morning.
delicious. There we go. I've got like the PC organic prunes for my son. I am going to be replacing it with the homemade stuff now. So I'm rolling this out just because this is how my mommy does it. And I like paying homage to my mommy because she's the one who taught me how to cook and bake. So I've rolled it out to about 1/4 of an inch thick. And then I've got my regular water glass. And this is my favorite part. I know we were saying the kids love smushing the dough. I find this so relaxing. And I would always try to get as many circles as possible. So this method would actually have your dough go a little bit farther, I would say. Just because it's a little more precise. And it goes a lot quicker, I find. Pardon me while I sneeze again. Okay. So I'm going to do a different filling for this one, just to keep it interesting. I've got a Hershey Kiss. And I'm just going to stick it right in the middle. Go away. Alrighty. I'm going to show the pinching method one more time. So we're just going to fold 2 sides together, pinch closed, and then we bring the bottom up. And we pinch everything together. And there we go. I feel like this is just like what we like knishes, where it looks like it's a lot of work, but actually it's incredibly easy and a lot of fun to do. Does anybody else have knishes ready to go, or knishes, Hamentashen ready to go that you're willing to show off with me? Oh, I'm spotlighting you. Wait right there, Ellie. All right, show it off.
I put sprinkles in mine with Nutella.
Amazing. Amazing. I used to teach baking at Robin's Hebrew Academy, and to get the kids excited, we would add food coloring to the dough just to make it extra festive. I find food coloring gross, so I'm not doing it today, but it's a good option if you're doing with kids. Does anybody else have any finished products to share with us, and we can go on to the baking?
I do.
Who was that?
Have you got mine?
Is that Simone?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I'm having you. Oh, they're beautiful. What filling do you have?
I have the one that you have with the prunes, but I only put raisins in because I don't like prunes.
with the walnuts and the raisins and the orange. It's delicious. And then I have an apricot jam. And then I have peanut butter and chocolate chippets.
Oh my gosh, you have like a full bakery over there.
Right, variety.
Quite the operation.
Ellie?
Melissa has asked, is there anything you... Yes?
There. Woo! Can you
Wait,
see
let's
it?
see.
Can you see them?
Beautiful. I feel like you've done this before.
Pardon?
I said, I feel like you've done this before.
A few
I
years.
have.
A few years.
All right, so I was asked, is there anything you need to do differently if you want to make big ones? No, you just need more dough, more filling, and it might just take a little bit longer in the oven. So these are going to go on a lined cookie sheet. And they're going to go into an oven that's been preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're going to cook them anywhere between 15 and 25 minutes. And I feel like there's such a large range because they can come out in like whatever size you want. So a really large Hamentashen, I would keep it in for 25 minutes. These little babies that I have, this is probably 15 to 20, maybe, let's call it 5. I'm going to put it in for 18 minutes. But keep an eye on them. If they start to get really dark, pull them out. If they start leaking, like pull them out. Just you'll smell them when they're done. What is the boiling prune recipe you mentioned? So that was my trick. If you don't have a food processor, you don't want to sit there chopping up sticky prunes, what you can do is boil the prunes in water, which will reconstitute them and make them easier to handle. You can then chop them up with a chef's knife, or you can use an immersion blender. And that sort of skips the step of using the food processor, but it's the exact same recipe. Again, like instead of using the whole orange, you would juice the orange. Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions? We made a lot of Hamentashen in a very short amount of time. The oven is 350 degrees. And always make sure that your oven is properly preheated, because if you put the cookie in before it's actually at 350, it's going to start to melt and do weird things, but it's not going to cook, and you're going to come out with a wonky cookie. I learned that the hard way many times.
Ellie, it's Doris. It's wonderful to see so many of our members actually baking, like Helen Daniels, Rita Karp, Michael Levick. Like they are taking this very seriously and doing their Hamentashen baking.
Well, it's very serious thing.
It's really special.
I'm going to put us in gallery mode because I'm going to take off my spotlight, because you don't need to see just me anymore. Hi, Doris. There you are.
Hi, Ellie.
This is really nice.
I tried to find.
Hello.
I tried to find a gluten-free recipe for the dough, because I'm gluten-free and my.
How did it come out?
They haven't come out yet. I'm just making them. It's hard to use. The dough is much harder to work with. It's much more fragile.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll try it. There are 3 completely different gluten-free recipes I found on the internet. I picked one. Who knows?
I always say just use your favorite flour substitute, and hopefully it should work. It might, again, like it might be a little bit tougher. In which case, if you know that you're using a flour that's quite dense, that's why you would really want to whip up your flour and butter until it's really voluminous. Did I say that correctly? Because that's going to help add some more moisture and some more body to your cookie dough. And if you're using something that falls apart really easily, then you might want to just add a little bit more. Those are my 2 cents on baking gluten-free. Not that anyone asked. Can they be frozen? These can absolutely be frozen. Cookies are always better out of the freezer. That is just, I mean, they're great out of the oven, but I love sneaking a cookie at midnight out of the freezer. Does anybody else have any questions or would like to show off what they made or share? I like hearing people's family traditions when it comes to holiday baking.
Ellie, I don't know if you answered this yet, but do you line the cookie sheet or do you grease it?
I prefer to line it just to make sure your bottom don't get too dark.
Okay, thank
I
you.
would use parchment. Yeah, my pleasure. Anybody else have any questions? I'm gonna see how everybody's doing. If you guys want to hold up, oh, Sandra has some beautiful Hamentashen. I just want to embarrass people, show them off. I don't know. It's all the same. Carol, beautiful.